every county in New York State, listening to people's concerns. The Sharpe Way is a show where answers, solutions, and common ground can be found so that together we can forge a new way forward. The Sharpe Way is the way to mutual respect, where no one has to convert to be heard, because you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want, as long as you aren't forcing your beliefs on others. Welcome to Sharpe Way Radio.
Oh, welcome to Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. The number to call after the first break, 585-346-3000. And boy, we've had news. We tend to always have news, but lots of news happening. But I want to bring up, as I always do, New York stuff. It's kind of what I do. And I remember something special happened. I wanted to talk to my friend just last night about some issues and stuff. And I wanted to sit down at a diner or a restaurant and have a chat with him for a while. And something had changed in my neighborhood. It had changed. And it reminded me of change in neighborhoods in general. And I'll get to the specific change in a second. But if you've heard me speak before, I often talk about my childhood neighborhood in the Bronx when I was a little guy back in the 70s. And I remember one specific time that was almost magical for me. And that was, there was a movie theater on 161st Street, right by Yankee Stadium, called The Earl. Does not exist anymore. But it used to be a small movie theater. And it would show, older movies. You can go watch like Godzilla movies and back in the 70s, Kung Fu movies and stuff like that. And this is before they had like times. What I mean by that is, those of you old enough know, you used to go to a movie theater, buy your ticket, and you would just sit there as long as whatever. You could watch the movie 2, 3, 4 times, whatever you wanted to, right? Sit there and watch the movie 8 times if you wanted to. Buy some popcorn, whatever, and sit there. And that was the thing. And I remember after I'd seen the movie Star Wars, I thought, man, Star Wars is great. I wanted to buy some Star Wars toys. And there was a 5 and dime shop right next to, or maybe a block or two, now a store or two down from the movie theater. And it's a 5 and dime store. And there was some Star Wars toys. I used to go in and look at them. Like, oh, when I get enough money, I'm going to go buy my Star Wars toys. So it was great. It's a young boy. A lot of that's gone now. But not just in that neighborhood, but in many neighborhoods. As a boy of 8, 9, 10 years old, I could walk around my neighborhood where most of the buildings were either residential buildings or like commercial on the bottom and then like residential on top. And the neighborhood was places that you could go as a kid walking around. You could talk about, walking around to see a movie, buying toys, whatever. The commercial or retail part of the neighborhood was important. It mattered, right? That's the issue. It mattered. It made the neighborhood better. You could find a job in your neighborhood. You could work for the local accountant. You could work for the local store. You could work for the local, marketing company. Back then, they had the companies used to do the advertisements in the newspapers and such. You can go there too. Those days are gone. Now I've got to go someplace else. Now I live in Queens. I've been in Queens for over 20 years now. So it's not the Bronx anymore. I'm in Queens. And one of the great parts about living where I live in Queens is restaurants, diners. One of there are many valuable things, but that's one of them. I don't have to have a car where I live. I don't. Everything is walkable. I can walk to my doctor. I can walk to my dentist. I can walk to my computer repair guy. I can walk to my accountant. I'm not joking. I can walk to go shopping. I can walk to my deli. Wherever I want to go, I can walk to it. No worries whatsoever. But the thing that really made me change my mind about the city and where I live is a minor thing for most, but a big deal for me. And that is diners. In 2018, when I ran for governor, I did a video. I was afraid. I looked at my neighborhood in Queens and I said, it's changing. And not for the better, because all of the individually owned, family owned, locally owned stores are going away. And as they go away, they're being replaced by franchises, which generally speaking are just big business and often owned by people who aren't even anywhere near the neighborhood. They live in Connecticut or whatever. They live someplace else. They live in Jersey Shore and they have businesses here in my neighborhood. I'm not happy about that. And when the lockdowns came, that was even worse. The lockdowns crushed all these local diners. One of the first to go down was a diner in my area called Mike's Diner. They're gone. Then Tasty's is gone. And then the one that affected me literally last night was just last Sunday, Neptune Diner went under. I'd been going to that diner, which is again walking distance from my house, for 22 years. It's gone now. It will now become some type of, I don't know, big residential building or something. So they'll put more people in this neighborhood, which is not a bad thing, but they're destroying any good parts of the neighborhood, meaning the individually owned stores. They're all going away. And they get replaced with things like Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts or, I don't know, TJ Maxx or something like that. They get replaced with that. And then a large apartment building complex where no one will own, everyone will rent. And that's what we keep doing. This drives me crazy. And it made me literally want to move. Larry, you wanted to move over a diner? Yes, because it was the third diner to go out of business. It was the third one. And one of the things we, as Americans in general, but particularly the youth, which I am no longer, sadly, we need what they call third places where you can just meet and talk and meet people and be human. And as we lose those places and they become more commercialized, as they become more generic, we lose that culture. Now, why did I tell you this entire story? Who cares, right? I don't care where you live, Larry, whatever. Well, maybe you don't care where I live. But as you destroy commercial real estate, you destroy a city. Let me now take that from what I just said, some local diner, now to New York City, Manhattan, where the big buildings are and the big everything is. Let me shift it into that now. This part's even worse. Not for me personally, but for the country, for the nation, for the state as a whole. All of a sudden now, you're seeing, as you just saw the news, everything's collapsing, this is collapsing, we've been in a recession, or maybe we're not in a recession, maybe we are in a recession, whatever you're going to hear. Here's what I told you a year ago, at least, if not several years ago. The lockdowns made sure that all those small businesses in Manhattan began to collapse. But worse, that commercial property is just retail. I'm talking about commercial property where it's a business, like a finance company or a marketing company or an accounting firm or a law office. Those are big dollars in Manhattan. Those are sometimes 2 or 3 floors on a building. Their rental, I mean, they're dropping literally millions of dollars every year on rents. Well, all those are going away too. And again, you might go, Larry, why do I care? Why do I care? I don't live in Manhattan. I don't care if some big law firm goes out of business. I don't care. Well, no. I'm not saying the law firm's going out of business. Some of them are, obviously. What they're all doing is saying, I don't have to have all this space anymore. Now, to be forward, that was happening already, but it didn't happen overnight. It was happening slowly so that we could respond. The lockdowns made that happen basically overnight. Now, all of a sudden, the law firm says, why am I going to spend millions of dollars on these 3 floors when no one's coming in anymore? When everyone's doing work overseas, or everyone's doing work from their home, or everyone's using AI, or some combination of those 3. I don't do that anymore. Because I'm not paying. You got a contract. Good, sue me. I'm a law firm. Good luck with that. I literally have dozens of lawyers just sitting here waiting. Go ahead, sue away. You'll lose more suing me than you'll ever get from me. And now you say, well, Larry, why do I care about that? Because now I have people on those buildings going, I'm out. I can't do this. Again, you might go, Larry, I don't care. I don't own a building. What do I care? Because all those guys owe money to banks. That's why you should care. And the banks decide what happens with our economy. I wish they didn't, but they do. So I told this long story to say one important thing that people were not paying attention to, which I was. Commercial real estate, both retail and office space, is a critical part of our economy. It's a critical part of our banking. It's a critical part of everything, because when I need to get, in the case of New York City, millions of people into office space in Manhattan, other people support them, right? Local diners, restaurants, taxi cabs, MTA employees, cops, firefighters, they all support these people as they come in and out of the city. But when they stop coming in, those people don't work either. Everything begins to collapse as commercial real estate collapse. Now the loans collapse. Now the buildings get sold. And the buildings were all collateral, right? You get a big loan. You say, hey, I got a massive loan. Something goes wrong, take my building. Well, now what they're saying is, take my building. I'm not joking. If you look at the news, they are selling buildings in New York City at like 20% of the price, 20 cents on the dollar. They are selling these buildings. Just get rid of it. Pay my debt and move on. Or pay some of my debt and move on. I'm just moving on. I'm done. The more this happens, the more we suffer. Now, everyone's going to tell you, well, it all started with people, collapsing in Japan. It was Japan that collapsed it. That's part of it. But why would you be over there buying and selling and loaning and doing all that stuff in yen and in Japan? Well, because you're having trouble here. That's why you're doing those carry loans and all those things. That's why you're doing it. And when that begins to collapse, it all does. Strong business, specifically small business and entrepreneurs, is the way to have a solid economy. If you don't have that, you do not have a solid economy. I don't care what numbers are there and what your, GDP is. Doesn't matter. If you don't have entrepreneurs creating businesses, creating jobs, not government creating jobs, not government being 1/3 of your GDP, not that, you do not have a strong economy. And that's what we're seeing right now. And so many people were like, wait a minute, does this really matter? Yeah, now it does. All of a sudden now, I wish I had that diner. I wish I had that local movie theater. I wish I had that five and dime, because that would have made me have a resilient economy, a resilient neighborhood, a resilient nation, and not be worried about everything collapsing for 5 or 6 people. Anyway, am I wrong? Do you miss it? Or are you too young, you don't remember it? Let me know. 585-346-3000. Larry Sharpe, Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. Back with your calls and the chat. I see you online after the break.
Introducing a sobering and unavoidable truth. The latest advancements in artificial intelligence have made cyber attacks easier than ever before. Cyber criminals are relentlessly targeting your business right now, seeking the tiniest
Hey, Larry,
opening in your defenses
as I'm sure
to
you're
drain your
well
accounts
aware,
and steal
when you
sensitive
shop
data.
at
Your
a local
finances and
independent
your
business,
customers'
more
trust are
money
on
stays
the
in your
line.
local
Call
economy
the experts at Simple Tech
than
Innovations
the chains. And the other thing too,
Tech to secure
I
your
find
business
that when
today.
a local
Don't wait
small
until it's
business
too late.
closes,
Make
the first
call
people to
today.
complain about the business not being there anymore are the ones that didn't support it on a regular basis. You know what I mean?
And freedom informed by our Constitution.
Yeah, I've seen small independent grocery stores close, and people complain that, we don't have our grocery store anymore, but they would do their weekly shopping out of town at like a Wegmans.
Volunteer, nonpartisan group which has been lobbying for open source audits of the state board of elections
Yes.
and reform of the electoral process statewide. Did you know Citizens Audit has uncovered over 1 million felony violations of election law? That in 2020 there were 625,000 more voter registrations than existing voting age citizens in just 6 New York counties? That there were 338,000 more votes cast than voters who voted. These are just a few shocking examples of the urgent need
Yeah, my
for
other
reform.
2 cents,
You can
you know,
help.
when I go
Visit
on vacation, I like
auditny.com and
eating
learn the
at
facts,
local
how to volunteer,
establishments because
and
you
make
can
a
get the
difference in
same
your
food
community.
anywhere at
Again,
those chains.
volunteer, donate, or spread the word. Start at auditny.com. That's auditny.com.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
Yes, it is Larry Sharpe, WYSL, Rochester, New York, Sharpe Way Radio, 585-346-3000 is the number. And I know I was talking about how it affects the entire economy when commercial businesses go away, whether they're retail, whether they're businesses, office space, specifically when they are smaller businesses. But I want to go to another piece that you see happening, particularly in New York City, and that is stores in malls, stores on the first floors of businesses, and then even stores in subways. And why do I say all these things? Because when you start to lose all these stores, not only are you giving money to franchises when some will come back, but you are by default creating food deserts. Yes, there are people, if you know them, I'm sure if you know anyone who lives in the city, who actually shop not for incidentals or snacks or things you happen to run out of at a bodega or at a local deli, but they shop for food at a deli. Why? There's no realistic, healthy food choice within several blocks. Now, what if you are retired on a fixed income? Well, you got to worry about dollars, but not just that. You got to worry about gas, maintaining a car. If you live in a city and you're retired, you probably don't own a car. So you don't have a car. So you got to walk. Well, you're retired. That's a big deal. Or you have to order, which costs even more. And if you want to order and not spend everything, all the money you have to order from someplace local. Again, harder and harder and harder. As these stores go away, we forget. We think, well, it's some greedy entrepreneur who wants to make a bunch of money. Well, I'm sure he wants or she wants to make a bunch of money. I'm sure that's true. But it doesn't mean they're not servicing the community. Why can't you do both? Why can't you make money and service the community? I think you can do both. Somehow we forget about that. And we don't realize that as we lose these shops, as we lose these commercial businesses, everything begins to collapse. The reason why I said this 6 years ago was I saw this outcome. Commercial real estate is often overlooked. Thought of as who cares, big business. And some of that's true. Don't get me wrong. There are some big business gurus who will still be fine no matter what happens. That's true. But I'm talking about the neighborhoods they service and the small business owners who are also destroyed. This is one of the hardest things we deal with. So let me grab a couple of comments if I could. Little off topic. John says, Larry Sharpe, can you speak on yesterday's decision about mask banning? I think I might have talked about this a while ago, or maybe I didn't. I was planning to. John, I don't remember, but I remember this was talked about in New York City weeks ago. The idea of banning masks. Some of you may not know what John's talking about. In New York State, we were really hard on masking, both legally and socially. Everyone got a mask. I'm pretty sure I brought this up a while ago, but let me talk about it in general. I talked about how when the lockdowns came, and I warned everyone about the lockdowns when it happened in 2020, when I started getting shadow banned all over the internet, when I talked about this is a bad idea, lockdown is a terrible idea, the damage we're going to see from lockdowns is going to be far worse than anything else they might have stopped. Horrible damage. We're seeing it now. So what we did, New York City specifically, some parts of the country too, said, hey, plastic bags are evil, so bring your own bags. That was going to save the planet, and now global warming's over, and we've won. Clearly that didn't happen, but that was the plan. So now people walk in with their own bags. Okay, great, I guess. So what else happens? Lockdowns happen, and mask mandates happen. So now you're asking, you're begging, you're demanding that people walk into your store with their own bag, loading up goods into their own bag, and wearing a mask. What could go wrong? Well, turns out everything. So now, while New York City does have a decrease in violent crime, that's true, theft is insane. Why? Because you can steal stuff from people with a mask on and no one sees it coming. No one gets it. The gazillion cameras that we put up along New York City to become a surveillance police state literally made it to where now it doesn't matter because we can't see because everyone's wearing a mask. So now what's their answer? Now we're going to ban masks. We mandated them. Now we're going to ban them. John is correct. It happened in Nassau County. Was it a couple days ago? Was it? I don't remember when it was. It was recently. They banned the masks. So now you can't wear a mask. I thought they were going to save your life. I thought that was the answer. Just wear a mask and nobody gets sick anymore. How come everywhere in these awesome rules they make up, bring your own bag, global warming is over. We've now won the climate change battles. Well done. We all won because we now bring our own bags, wear a mask, nobody will get sick ever again. Life is good. We've beaten viruses. Done. Yay. All garbage. I'm embarrassed that we did it again. But again, if you were listening to the show several weeks ago, I mentioned it. It had to happen. It just had to happen. I've yapped away. I hope that answers your question. I think what else can you do? And it's the same idea. Government creates a problem, then tries to solve the problem that they created again and again and again. Sometimes, John, I'm tired of being right. Sometimes I am. So yes, I hope that answers your question. So, all right. Nicholas says, I saw a local news story that reported that a liberal organization sent letters to Democrats in New York City to urge them to re-register to vote upstate New York if they have a second home here. Objective, the vote can have more effect on swinging local elections. I agree with that, actually, Nicholas. And some people try to do that, right? For those of you, again, if you live in New York State and you're listening or watching, you probably know that many people who are wealthy in New York City have a second home someplace else. Often upstate New York, usually Hudson Valley, but could be any place, could be on the Finger Lakes, but usually a second home. Could also be Connecticut, Jersey Shore, Florida. If you're wealthy in New York City, you often have a second home. That's true. Usually people then can decide where they want to vote, right? Do they want to vote in the place where they own the second home or the place in New York City where they probably work, which is usually what happens. They work or go to school in New York City. So that's a common thing. So if you live where I live, and perfect example, Nicholas, if you're not a Democrat, you don't get to vote. I mean, you do, but you don't. A Democrat at my city level, state level, and federal level wins every election every single time. At my state level, the Republicans haven't run a candidate now 12 years. They have not even run a candidate. Don't bother. They don't even run a candidate. Why bother running one? Can't win. Waste of time. So, yeah, your vote here doesn't matter. That's true. In New York City, it's 6-1 Democrats to Republican. Your vote does not matter here. Agreed. But if you go to some areas in upstate, particularly Hudson Valley, in the Hudson Valley area, there are many areas that are purple, particularly locally. So you can actually make impact. I understand that. That makes a lot of good sense. I get it. So I hope I answered that question. So yes. John says, Larry, I've had moments like this all too often in my community. As for Central Square, New York, you have more residents on most streets than my whole village entirely. Seeing businesses leave breaks me. You know, when a larger organization goes out of business, that's sad too, because people lose jobs. But it isn't the same as when an individual does. Because every time I see a closed business or going to business sign on a small business, that's somebody's dream that was just crushed. Boy, does that hurt. I agree with you, John, completely. Larry Sharpe, Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL Rochester, New York, 585-346-3000. Back with your calls. And I see the chat. I will keep going. I got more. You guys keep going. I'll keep answering after the break.
Pray for the USA.
WYSL.
Proud to be your local talk station for great American programming.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for tonight. Couple of showers tapering off, then some partial clearing in the 60s on Wednesday. A much nicer day, good deal of sunshine, pleasant, but less humid, temperatures in the 70s. Beautiful day Thursday in the 70s with some sunshine. Couple of showers will try to increase on Friday into Saturday in the 70s and 80s. I'm Rich Canilia, WYSL.
Register to vote. The voice of liberty. The WYSL stations.
Join the culinary family as Fratelli's Restaurant in Avon is now hiring for a line cook position. Are you passionate about creating delectable dishes that leave guests craving more? Do you thrive in a fast-paced kitchen environment? Fratelli's Restaurant is seeking a talented and dedicated line cook to join their team. Qualifications include proven experience as a line cook in a restaurant setting, passion for food, and a desire to learn and grow, ability to handle high-pressure situations during busy shifts. Flexibility to work holidays, nights, and weekends are a must. Compensation, $25 to $35 per hour based on experience. Simple IRA plan with up to 3% match after 1 year of employment. Fratelli's Restaurant offers a dynamic and supportive team environment, opportunities for skill development and advancement. Apply online, fratellisavon.com, an equal opportunity employer.
In the Rochester and Finger Lakes region, one name stands above all others for real estate appraisal and advice.
Ryan Murphy and Associates.
This full-service real estate appraisal company can appraise and advise on purchase and sales decisions, mortgage finance feasibility, estate, matrimonial, partnership buyouts, litigation, and more for any type of property, both residential and commercial. Ryan Murphy was founded almost 40 years ago. All of our highly trained staff members have at least 20 years of experience. All our appraisers are either New York State certified general or residential real estate appraisers.
Ryan Murphy and Associates.
Start here. RYNNEMurphy.com.
Introducing a sobering and unavoidable truth. The latest advancements in artificial intelligence have made cyber attacks easier than ever before. Cyber criminals are relentlessly targeting your business right now, seeking the tiniest opening in your defenses to drain your accounts and steal sensitive data. Your finances and your customers' trust are on the line. Call the experts at Simple Tech Innovations now at 585-999-TECH to secure your business today. Don't wait until it's too late. Make the call today. 585-999-TECH.
Hey, Larry.
Harness racing has returned.
Okay, so just had a listener. His name is Kevin from Rochester. He's driving, so he didn't want to go on the air, but he just wanted to just throw a shout out to Kevin in Rochester. But he brought up how when he was a kid, growing up in the 19th Ward in the city of Rochester, having their local movie theater to go see, movies at. Just walk to the theater.
Genesee Your Path.
Yep, we all have that experience, or at least many of us did.
Number one value for our community college in Western New York. 75 plus academic programs that are transferable too. Hands-on training in our state-of-the-art labs, including the new advanced manufacturing and skilled trades lab. On-campus student housing. Registration is now open. Apply for free online at genesee.edu/apply.
Today's heat pump systems are a better, more convenient way to keep your home comfortable all year round. They'll keep you cool on the hottest summer days and keep you warm on the coldest winter nights. Plus, these all-weather ductless or ducted systems are up to 40% more efficient than conventional heating and cooling systems. Upgrade to an energy-efficient heat pump system and take advantage of clean heat rebates. Find out more at airquipheating.com.
Airquip Heating and Air.
Don't miss the National Silver Ball Tournament at Genesee Country Village and Museum, August 9th, 10th, and 11th. Vintage teams unpack woolen uniforms, brown balls, and double knob bats to play in the finest replica 19th century baseball park in the country. Cheer on during the round-robin tourney, played by 1860s rules. Experience America's favorite pastime like you've never seen it before. The National Silver Ball Tournament, August 9th through the 11th. Tickets are discounted and include full museum access. Visit gcv.org.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
Oh, yes. It is Larry Sharpe. Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York, 585-346-3000. And I want to give a shout out to someone who called in during the break. Kevin out of Rochester, grew up in the 19th Ward here in Rochester, and talks about his idea of going to a local movie theater, just walking to one. Yes, there was and there still is part of it in some cities, but there was an interesting lifestyle that people would enjoy, being in a place where you could just walk to a movie theater, walk to a store, walk to your park, walk to any place you wanted to go. There was some value to it. And a lot of that has gone away for several reasons. One of them is some of the local areas just don't exist anymore. The local theaters don't exist anymore. That's one. But the second piece is there's also a crime issue also in many parks. Homelessness, drug use, things like that in many parks and cities. That's not true in all areas, but in many parts of cities, that's true, where you can't really go to a park without being harassed in some way, shape, or form in many areas. They're trying to fix it up in certain places, but certain places not. And then, do you even have a neighborhood anymore? So I think all those are interesting ideas. I know it sounds nostalgic, but there is some issue to that. That's true. I'm not just trying to be, back in my day, it was better. I mean, sometimes I do sound that way, I know. But this one is not that, right? That's not what I'm trying to in this case. So thank you, Kevin, for calling in. John says, this is all true, Larry, but after a period of pain, wouldn't the commercial real estate vacuum be filled by businesses not yet conceived? Now, he goes on to answer his own question. He says, the free market will solve all those problems if government gets out of the way, of course. And there is how you've answered your own question, John. No, it will not be fixed because all of the silly rules, regulations, and laws are still from like 1902. I made that up, obviously. But back when this was industrial age, we have an industrial aged laws and an industrial age government, an industrial age infrastructure for an informational age society and culture. So no, government will literally get in the way and make things worse. The government will literally get in the way, meaning they will put bodies in the way, cops, tape, Department of Buildings officers, and stop it from happening. Yes, because they will follow the rules and laws regardless whether they make sense or not. They will be just following orders. They will just be following the orders. And what could go wrong when you just follow orders, John? Nothing. History has taught us that never goes wrong. But they will do exactly that. So yes, in theory, no, in practice. That libertarian lady says, just had someone say in a live stream earlier that New York will turn red this election. Please explain how that will not happen. Okay. I know many Republicans listen to me. Many conservatives listen to me. I know that. I love you. I respect you. I speak to you in many ways. I know I do. So let me say this with love. That is a fantasy. New York State is not going red. Do local areas go red? All the time. Physically, the space of New York State is a red state with blue splotches all around it, right? Buffalo's is blue, Rochester's blue, Ithaca's blue, Albany's blue, New York City's blue. So it's basically a red state with blue splotches. That's what New York State is. But as a whole, in the entire state, the statewide election, attorney general, governor, senator, president, these are statewide elections. New York is not going red. No way. And let me explain why. Because people will tell me, well, Larry, people are unhappy with Democrats. They suck. That's true. They're unhappy and Democrats suck. accurate statements, and it will not matter. The people who would be voting against Democrats are doing one of two things: packing up and leaving, or just checking out. The amount of people I meet who don't want to vote anymore. This was true for years ago, it's still true. Some parts of upstate New York, 1 in 6 vote. 1 in 6. You can't win when 1 in 6 are voting, number one. Number two, over 300,000 people are leaving New York State every year. At least 250,000 of those would be voting anti-Democrat. At least, if not all 300,000, would be voting anti-Democrat. The people are just leaving. We are 3-1 Democrat to Republican in New York State right now. Not going to happen. I called the last election, the governor election, exactly. I said Zeldin will lose between 5 and 7 points. He lost by 6. I know this state. I cover this state every single year. I meet New Yorkers all the time. I talk to them on the phone. I talk to them in person. I meet them. The amount of New Yorkers still to this day who, while they don't like Democrats, they're just hoping for a better Democrat. I'm not joking. Look at what happened when Biden dropped out and Harris was anointed. The second they anointed Harris, you saw all Democrats go, oh my God, Jesus has come. We are now set. We're now going to win. And they've come out of the woodwork. Now there's comics for Harris, white dudes for Harris, black women for Harris, people who are really tall named Joey for Harris. There's everything for Harris now all of a sudden. So no, literally no chance at all. I will take any bet anybody has whatsoever. 0 chance New York State goes red in a statewide election. A Republican has not won a statewide election in this state in 22 years. And the state's not all of us going to get redder. Remember something. If you are a Republican listening, what would it take for you to vote for a Democrat? Some of you just threw up in your mouth. I know. Well, guess what? Democrats think the same way about Republicans. As bad as you feel about them, they feel that way about you. So I hope that I explained that. Not going to happen. Don't waste your time in that regard. Vote locally. You can get your Republicans. You can get your conservatives voted in locally. Do that to the best of your ability. Statewide, that ship has sailed years ago. Remember, Cuomo said there is no space for conservatives in New York. And it didn't affect him at all. He still won every election. He said that. Hochul said, get on a bus and go to Florida if you're conservative. Remember that? She said, you're conservative, get in a bus, go to Florida. And guess what's happening? People going, okay. And they're getting on a bus and they're going to Florida. So not happening. So sorry if I made some of you upset. It's just the way it is. So Valerie asks, or says I should say, Democrats don't help the little businessmen, including building owners. Spend more where they take in, then tax higher. You make a valid point here. Most Democrats that I know who talk about economic policies, they do not see a difference between a small business owner and literally Jeff Bezos. And I think that's the critical distinction. Am I mad when people want to tax or beat up on Jeff Bezos? No, he's a billionaire who's probably going to go to Mars one day. I don't care if you beat him up, whatever. He can defend himself. He'll be fine. He's good. Call him names, whatever. What do I care? That he's going to be fine. He doesn't care if we call him a name or tax him an extra percentage or two. He'll find a way around it. Who cares? The guy or gal I'm worried about is the woman who starts her accounting firm with her and her friend and then goes under because H&R Block destroys her, right? Or the dude who decides to open up a small shop someplace and then gets pushed out by a franchise, McDonald's or Pizza Hut or something. And I'm not against Pizza Hut or McDonald's. I'm not against franchises. For many people, they're a very valuable and important way of starting businesses. They service the community. The problem is they make it to where that's the only way it can work. That if you're not a franchise, you can't survive. That is a problem, right? That's my issue. And most Democrats who talk about economics don't see a difference. And I do, and that's why they fail. I completely agree. Yes. So anyway,
Roger
Patty says, more free thinking, more innovative ideas, more local, more Larry Sharpe. Oh, I agree on all 4 of those. Let me grab a call if I could. It's Roger. How are you, sir?
Doing good. Are we ready to push these people to make us become a ballot initiative state? Because they ain't doing it. That's the only way.
I have been talking about it forever. I am with you, and I'm hoping, my friend, that in the next year or two, I can get myself back into the mindset to run for office again. And if I do it, that will be one of my top priorities. I think you're exactly correct. I can't see any way around us fixing this state without some form of ballot initiative. I agree.
Because the thing is that, like, they don't know what they're doing. We know how to solve our own problems. Okay? These politicians have no idea.
Yep.
I saw Jabari Brisport put something up about, like, universal child care. I'm like, hey, how about we pay people enough to where they can survive on a single parent? I mean, not on a one parent
I like that idea
income.
too. Yeah.
So the other parent can stay home and you save money on childcare. Okay. Or
another call on hold.
If it's a single parent, pay them to stay home and take care of their kids.
I'm with you. Look, I think the more money we make and the more control that we have, the better chance we'll be successful. I agree. Look, will we make mistakes? I agree, but you and I have discussed this before. Then we'll make an initiative to get rid of the bad thing that we said. Things never change unless the people get behind it. I completely agree. I'm up under a break, Roger. I'm going to have to run. It is Larry Sharpe, Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York, 585-346-3000. Back with more calls and more of your chat after the break.
Introducing a sobering and unavoidable.
Okay, we have Joe from Schenectady.
Artificial intelligence have made cyber attacks easier than ever before. Cyber criminals are relentlessly targeting your business right now, seeking the tiniest opening in your defenses to drain your accounts and steal sensitive data. Your finances and your customers' trust are on the line. Call the experts at Simple Tech Innovations now at 585-999-TECH to secure your business today.
Okay, calls are starting to stack up. So after Joe from Schenectady, we'll have Dave from Brockport.
Hot dogs and the American flag. They're all part of the rich fabric that makes our country great. Show your American spirit by purchasing your flag from the Stars and Stripes flag store today. When you do, you are supporting critically needed services for local veterans at the Veterans Outreach Center. Let's show our veterans that we care by placing our nation's symbol on the porch of every house in our community. The Stars and Stripes flag store, 783 South Avenue, Rochester, or visit eflagstore.com.
Avon Gun and Hunting Supply, a locally owned and operated gun shop here for your hunting needs. With changes in New York state laws, they'll work with you to fulfill your needs. Open from 10 a.m. Tuesday through Saturday, Avon Gun, East Main Street, next to Tompkins Community Bank.
Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten Free Bakery has a great deal on Tuesdays. A large 4-topping pizza for $18, regular or gluten-free. Call 226-9575. Open Tuesday through Sunday. Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten Free Bakery in Avon.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
Oh, yes. It is Larry Sharpe on Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. So glad you gave me a chunk of your afternoon. Boy, we've been talking about a lot here in New York. I love it. Got more calls. Want to grab, if I could, one more of those calls. Joe from Schenectady. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Do you think that RFK Jr. is going to get ballot access in New York? He's currently in court trying to fight to get on the ballot.
I think that if anyone has a chance at getting ballot access in all 50 states, it is RFK Jr. I cannot see anyone having any chance. He has dropped tens of millions of dollars and gotten over 1 million signatures across the entire country. And the Democratic Party is trying to stop him. The DNC has put about $1 billion, I'm not joking, with a B, trying to stop him and suing him in multiple states, 10, 12 states. So far, he's won every challenge. Hawaii, Nevada, he's been winning all of the challenges. He now has one here in New York.
I didn't realize there was that many states that he was fighting for.
Yeah, the Democrats are trying to throw him off of all of them. At the moment, he has enough signatures for all 50 states and the District of Columbia. The question is, will any of the Democratic lawsuits succeed? If any of them succeed, he may lose a state if that happens. So far, he's had a great record. And to be forward, he's using some lawyers that I know who I used when I sued New York State to get in the ballot. Now, they've learned their lessons on my back, and now they can hopefully help him to get him on the ballot. If he does not get in the ballot in New York State, this will be yet another year in New York State where there is no third party on the ballot. That was true in
I hope he
2022
gets it.
for the first time.
Thanks for taking my call.
I'm sorry, say again, Joe?
Thanks for taking my call. I hope he gets in.
Yeah, I think he will. I think the lawyers he has are good. I believe yes, to answer your question. So why do I care about Bobby Kennedy being on the ballot in New York State? Because I want at least one, at minimum, independent candidate on this damn ballot. The Libertarian couldn't make it. The Green couldn't make it. Cornel West couldn't make it. Maybe Bobby Kennedy will. We're going to have somebody. So, yes. Let me grab one more call if I could. Dave from Brockport. How are you, sir?
Good, Larry. Great show again. Hey, listen, you mentioned earlier we were in an information economy, and I believe prior to that it was a service sector economy. But I'm a little older than you, and I remember when we were a manufacturing economy.
Yes.
And I used to go round and round with a Keynesian professor about his philosophies and mine. I was hoping maybe you could discriminate or, give us your view on the differences between those economies. And I personally believe manufacturing is where it's at, because then we can grow the pot. And if the government takes a little, it's no big deal,
Well, you had me until that part when you said the government takes this, no big deal. That part I don't like. But otherwise, I agree with you completely. I'm sorry. That's my libertarian streak coming out right there. I'm sorry about that, Dave. But
you understand what I'm saying.
If
you
valid.
pick my house and we transact money, we didn't grow the pot. Where if you build me a house and we transact money, then we grew the pot.
Agreed, right? And the problem is several-fold here. To your point, your professor told you it's okay if we don't make anything. And that's absolutely false. Any company, any country, any something has to be able to make or create something, or, and here's the problem, they're at the whim of everyone else who does, right? That's the issue. If you don't make anything, you are at the whim of those who do. Now, can you make money not making stuff? Yes, of course. You can become basically like Singapore is basically a bank surrounded by a country. Luxembourg, a bank surrounded by a country. You can, but you are at the mercy of everyone who makes things. If they decide to not use you, to not finance through you, to not use your services, if someone creates better services than you are at their mercy. And we're seeing this now, to your exact point, Dave. Can we survive? We can, but we are at the mercy of others. We're trying to sanction Russia. Russia has all the resources. We can't really sanction them effectively, right? What we used to make more than anything else was intellectual property. Now we find other countries making that just as well, if not better. We see China stealing it. We see the Israelis having tons of patents and such. I think your point's very valid. You want to be able to create. I like manufacturing. I think it's a good idea. It does not have to be the entire part of your economy, but it's got to be a big chunk. Because here's the second piece: what happens when we have to go to war? Right. Look at what's happening again in Russia, Ukraine. I'm not taking a side on this. I'm just being very forward on this. Russia has a manufacturing industrial base. They go to war. They can easily make bombs and stuff. They can make those things. We can't replace it. We don't have an industrial base to do so. We can't do it. This isn't 1940, 1950 when we had a massive industrial base. Got to make tanks? Make some tanks. Now, we can't make tanks anymore. I mean, we make them, but my God, we couldn't replace them. We couldn't replace them when we went to war. So I think your point is a very valid one. I don't think we can become a manufacturing-based economy, but we want to have a huge chunk of manufacturing so we are not reliant on everyone else. Our biggest problem in America is we are trying to become Singapore. We're trying to become Luxembourg. The problem with America's economy right now is it's too finance-based. Finance matters. You got to have finance to, loan and everything. But finance, to your exact point, Dave, finance creates nothing. It's
All right, well,
finance is
as always,
parasitic.
respect your opinion and thank you.
Of course, yes. So yes, I don't want to have a parasitic economy, which is what finance economies are. They're based upon everyone else doing something. We want to start building more. He's correct. Let's build more. He's right. And let's do steel and stuff. All those things. It does matter. Thank you. All right, let me grab a couple more of these if I could. I know there's so many of these. Roy says, we need tax reform, which Dems oppose. But Republicans should stop making the middle class pay for billionaire tax breaks. Also true. Nominate fake business TV stars who protects his daddy's money by skirting the law with tax schemes. I wonder who you're talking about, Roy. I don't know who you're talking about. But yes, your point is well taken. Republicans talk a much better game. Republicans' rhetoric on taxes is much better. The sad part is they don't do what they're supposed to do. They don't take the same action. Democrats talk about freedom, but don't give any. Republicans talk about better taxes for the middle class, but don't do it. The middle class has been, I'll bring it up as I brought up earlier. For the past 25 years, you have seen decay in the middle class, whether it's Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, and now it'll be probably Biden or Harris, or maybe if we're lucky, RFK Jr., somebody else. But we have to stop the decay. The rhetoric on certain sides are better, but in each case, decay continues. You're correct. Sam says, I think the two best indicators of the true economy size are size of the middle class and size of their discretionary spending. Yes, and I'll go further than that. You are correct. But also the health of your democracy. Both the size of your economy and the health of your democracy. The stronger your middle class is, the stronger your democracy is. The more you have haves and have-nots and not the people in the middle who have some and are good and have good stuff, the more you have people who either want to keep power or fear and want to give power to gain safety. So I think I'll go further than what you said, Sam. You are correct, plus more. That's a good indicator of your economy and how strong your democracy is. Patty says, I like masks. I could badmouth cold worker. I could mouth bad words and stick out my tongue, and no one knew. Now I have to wash my face as saying, LOL. Look, you know where my head is on this. I'm not anti-mask. If you believe that a mask will help you for your health, please wear a mask. Good for you. I have no judgment on this. It is your life, your masking, your health. Do as you see fit. I'm not worried about that. I think banning masks is just as bad as mandating them. Wear a mask if you choose to wear one. That's it. I'm not mad at you. Here in New York City, during the bird flu epidemic back in the day in China, was it China? I think it was China. It was East Asia. There were many immigrants that were coming from that area here in Queens specifically that were wearing masks. They had done it when they were in East Asia, and they came in and were wearing masks. You all of a sudden see a mask, and usually it was an older Asian man or woman who'd be wearing a mask. Nobody cared. They want to wear a mask. Good for you. Freedom is the key. Mask isn't the key. Freedom is the key. That's what matters. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for giving me a chunk of your afternoon. I'll be back on my regular shows this week. If you want to check me out over at Larry Sharpe on YouTube, that'd be awesome. I will see you all very soon.
Hey, have a great rest of your week. Talk